Hey guys, and welcome back to another Lost Codex reaction and analysis. My name is Jesse, and I'm joined by Jeffrey in person.
Yeah.
This is not like weird editing. He's actually beside me.
We wouldn't be able to green screen this because I'm literally wearing a green shirt.
And he's wearing a Toto shirt for anyone who's not surprised at all. And of course, we are joined by Ishura, who's having a coughing fit off screen right now. But she's back because, well, she's just an absolute gem to have on with these reaction videos. Ishura, how excited are you?
I'm more scared than excited.
I am too. Yeah.
Yeah, scared is definitely.
We've
already been sort of spoiled by one of the thumbnails. Thanks, Wowhead.
Yes. Thank you, Wowhead, for this wonderful spoiler thumbnail. But we do know that there's two in-game cutscenes. We know that there's a Terran Gregory cinematic and a full-blown old soldier level cinematic.
CGI.
So how we're going to record this is because we only have one headset. Ishura and I are going to watch the reaction live. Jeff is going to leave. And then Jeff's going to come back and film his own reaction, which is why there's going to be 3 cameras in the final edit. But you guys aren't going to worry about that when it's actually live. Just the magic of movie editing.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
We'll improvise. All right, Ashura, Jeff, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. I'm not. I'm not yet. Yeah, you're going to get out, and you'll watch it in about 10 minutes. But power movie editing, let's get to it right now.
Let's go.
Anduin. Sylvanas' actions have threatened us all. And day by day, her power grows. If our world is to survive, we must strike while we still can. Meet with me, and we will speak.
So few.
How many can you provide?
Enough for one final assault. If that fails, we're done. If we end her reign, what kind of war chief will you be?
The Horde I joined was birthed in blood, tainted by corruption. The road that led to the Dark Portal was long and wide, paved with the bones of innocence. We called it the Path of Glory. That was the great lie upon which the Horde was founded. That anything we did was honorable. Thrall, Rosen, they were not the true heirs to Blackhand's bloody legacy. Sylvanas Windrunner is.
No. No, this is the Horde. Led by you. Someone who has
Honor. I've never known honor. They deserve more. But the Horde is doomed to be shackled by the chains of the past.
The Horde has no exclusive claim to regrets. Arthas, Dalen, the ghosts of the past haunt us as well.
We could not fill the chasm between the Horde and Alliance if we labored 1,000 years. You know this.
Then what are we fighting for?
Soldiers, on your feet!
Start breaking camp immediately!
Lord Saurfang?
Zakan, where is our home?
Orgrimmar?
Not our city. Our home.
Azeroth.
And ours?
Azeroth.
Right now, there are only 2 forces in this world that matter. One bent on harming our world.
And one that will protect her.
So, what are we doing?
Breaking the cycle.
Okay. All right. There's a lot to talk about here. Holy moly. we'll be right back with the magic of movie editing after we're done being confused. Oh my god. All right, guys, we are back, and there's a lot to talk about across all these cinematics. But today, in this particular video, we're going to talk about the war campaign finale in Dustwallow Marsh with Anduin and Saurfang. And you're going to see Jeff in the background over my shoulder here. Hi, Jeff. Hello. And so let's just dive right into it. Let's break this down. There's a lot that happens here. There's a lot of callbacks, a couple callbacks in this video, and we'll start with that. Okay, so in-game, if you guys haven't done the actual in-game stuff, if you play a Loyalist, Sylvanas says that she's well aware of everything that's going on, and that the Dark Ranger says that she's been tracking Saurfang and Thrall since they let them escape. You're given a report from the Dark Ranger of the cinematic, and if you play a Rebel or Alliance, Shaw/lor'themar inform you of this meeting. And it opens with them riding through Dustwallow Marsh. I've seen some people on Twitter and other places claiming it's the Swamp of Sorrows, and other places it's pretty clearly Dustwallow Marsh. And we see Anduin, Valeera, and Shaw all riding in unison at this point. I guess Shaw is aware that Valeera is Anduin's personal spy. But kind of interesting question that we have here in the notes is where do they ride from? And could Team Alliance possibly have landed and rode from Dustwallow, from Theramore's ruins? They're basically just south of Orgrimmar. It's a perfect spot to plan their rebellion, even though at this point Sylvanas knows. They think she doesn't know. You know, they even say in the Derek cinematic that it's the one spot she's not watching. So there's reason for choosing this location. And Saurfang's letter is being read out loud as they're riding. There's a scene where they get to the tower. Obviously, Bane and Saurfang are already there, which just says so much. There's Anduin with his disguise from Legion, reusing his old robe. He hands the sword over to Valeera, and it's this part. This is one of the callbacks I noticed. And for those of you who haven't watched the Lost Codex Legends on Valeera, go watch it, because Valeera really is. She's a blood elf. I mean, look at her aesthetic. She's clearly a blood elf, but she really is Team Rin. She's not even Team Alliance. She is Team Anduin and Varian. And one of my favorite shots in here is this next shot when he's climbing the stairs. And this shot right here is I saw it and it was an instant throwback to Arthas climbing the stairs of the Frozen Throne here. Just a nice, almost like to the beats throwback to that iconic Warcraft cinematic. A little bit different in that Anduin is, climbing the stairs with a much more noble purpose. But, they were both going to talk to an orc when they were climbing that stairs. And I just thought this was such a nice, in the same way that Anduin burst into the Lordaeron throne room, here we have another Lordaeron Arthas Anduin callback.
It's a small detail, but I thought it was interesting that he gives Valeera his sword when he's going to meet Saurfang, because, it's putting them on equal footing. He's making himself vulnerable, kind of like how he was when he went into the Stockades jail cell. But to me, it almost doesn't seem necessary, yet he still does it. I mean, that is something Anduin would so do. It is so characteristic of him.
It really is. He's in no danger. There's no part of this that Anduin's gonna or Saurfang rather is gonna turn around and attack him. But it's just it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of they are meeting on equal grounds. And I mean, Saurfang could break his neck in a second and throw him out the window. But it's you're right. It's a very Anduin thing to do. Varian would have totally kept the sword as a power move. Anduin, not so much, and that's not to say that he's making his own Anduin power move. It's just it's a noble Anduin power move. We have here there's a nice throwback to the cinematic in Old Soldier when Saurfang's looking over the battlements. Only this time it's a different kind of war camp that he's looking over, and it's the line that he says, "So few. How many can you provide?" The throwback is obviously when Zakan says, "How many do you think?" And Saurfang says, "Too many." There's this really, I don't want to use the word, keep using the word parallel. There's this distinct mirror here of the situations being totally opposite. There, it's almost the setting's very similar to the campfires, the war camp down below. It's a very ominous. It's nighttime, the night before the big battle. Two main characters meeting on the battlements. But again, just a nice throwback to the old soldier cinematic.
So when I first watched this conversation between the two, I thought it was really interesting how Saurfang was bringing up the Horde and talking about them being a group of killers at their heart. Not, an honorable horde, but that their legacy on Azeroth is coming in, invading this foreign planet and killing everybody. And it's interesting that he's almost seeming to say Sylvanas was picked as the leader of the horde because that's just what the horde is. It's killers, that in a way she is right for the horde as the horde is right for her. And that's such an interesting take on it that I hadn't thought about before.
It's really a what's interesting, and I said this when we're writing our notes here, is Saurfang's been around from the very beginning. He's an old dude, right? He's old. He grew up with the Blackrock clan. He saw the very first, his chieftain became the very first war chief, and he has seen everything. It's a very old mentality to admit your mistakes of the past, and he is flat out saying, like, there's no mistakes there's not a bunch of mistakes of the past. The horde itself is a mistake, and he said one of the most powerful lines that he says here about Sylvanas is, where is it here? The great lie upon which the horde was built. There's a part here where, just tying in what Ishura said about Sylvanas being the true heir to this horde, the fact that he calls out a bunch of former war chiefs, including Blackhand here, there really is this. You'd almost think it'd be more of a younger or a horde generation to call out the horrible mistakes of the past. For Thrall, when Thrall settled the orcs in Durotar, it was atoning for their sins, but Saurfang is saying that there's nothing good about what the horde was built upon here. He talks about Thrall and Vol'jin right here.
Thrall, Vol'jin, they were not the true heirs to Blackhand's bloody legacy. Sylvanas Windrunner is.
That line, Sylvanas Windrunner is. Look at the eyes on Saurfang. Like, he is pressing his point to Anduin right now. Sylvanas Windrunner is. And he's really, like, he is really close to Anduin right now. There is just so much fury and so much passion in his eyes, and everything that was wrong with the old horde, the original horde, there was nothing proud aside from the unity of the clans. Everything else, the path of glory, the Draenei, nothing about that was good. And he's saying it's completely a full circle here. It's completely a full cycle of the horde is built on this horrible notion, and it's actually Anduin, the leader of the alliance, who's like, no, I don't believe that. Which of course is Anduin being Anduin.
It's interesting to me. The horde are pretty pessimistic. So this conversation mirrors a lot between what happens between Jaina and Thrall in the Crossroads cinematic, and it's actually kind of laid out very similarly, where Saurfang is where Thrall is and Anduin is where Jaina is, and they're kind of both looking down and out on these horde encampments. And Jaina's line in the Crossroads cinematic where she says, "We all have blood on our hands," is exactly what Anduin is saying here when he says the horde has no exclusive claim to regrets. Jaina and Anduin are basically saying the same exact thing to Saurfang and Thrall, and it continues because Saurfang says, "We could not fill the chasm between the Horde and Alliance if we labored 1,000 years." And Thrall, again, more or less says something very similar. He says, "We've come to this crossroad again and again, Jaina. It always falls apart." And so the Horde, these members of the Horde have basically lost hope. And yet the Alliance is there to pick them up, to tell them we can do this, we can keep going. And, I don't know if I'd say the Horde hurt themselves more or they hurt the Alliance more or it's all even, but it's heartwarming, I think, in this moment of division that they can help each other in this.
Just as you were saying that, the realization that came to me, both Anduin and Jaina having the same role, and that, I remember when Thrall and Jaina are overlooking Thunderbluff, and Thrall looks so frustrated. He almost rolls his eyes at Jaina. He goes, time and time again. And here Saurfang's just grumpy because he's an old dog. But it's Jaina and Anduin, and their dads were Varian, changed later on, but at one point in time, their dads were so anti-Horde. Varian, this Horde, this ugly Horde that Saurfang's talking about, is responsible for the death of his city and the death of his father. So Varian had a very, very angry outlook towards the Horde, and we all know how Dalen felt to it, and that's what he says. He calls out Arthas and he calls out Dalen specifically. So it's funny that these two heirs to the two Alliance leaders, kings, who hated the Horde more than anything else, are the ones that are kind of picking the Horde back up, saying, no, like, there is a good aspect to this Horde. Everything that you were is no longer. It's about who you are right now. And that just came to mind right now when you were talking about that. I was like, oh my god, there's a really nice mirror there between Jaina and Anduin and Dalen and Varian. There's a really interesting line here where Anduin calls out Dalen and Arthas. It's right here.
But the Horde is doomed to be shackled by the chains of the past.
The Horde has no exclusive claim to regrets. Arthas, Dalen, the ghosts of the past haunt us as well.
That moment right there, the ghosts of the past haunt us as well. It's also very similar to what Jaina says in the Crossroads cinematic. We all have blood on our hands, and he kind of looks away, and I mean, not to pull biases here, but comparing Arthas and Dalen to everything the Horde's done, the list isn't exactly evenly weighed, but I will say in that moment, Anduin tried. You know what he, Saurfang could have said, we're a bunch of dicks, and Anduin could have just stood there and went, yep, no, you're not wrong, but he tried. He's like, here's two really bad eggs. And it's completely fair. He pulled the one bad egg he pulls out is the Lich King himself, right? So like Anduin's really trying here. And finally at the end, there's that line that Anduin says here.
Years. You know this.
Then what are we fighting for?
What are we fighting for? And somewhere in the distance, Terran Zhu and Chen Stormstout are just cheering, raising their sake up in the air and just going, thank you. Finally, someone is learning the lessons of Pandaria, because it is coming full circle. And that's actually what gets Saurfang. He's like, damn kid, fine. Gets all aggressive. And then, I don't know why, I like this part at the end. There's not a whole lot of hidden meaning here and no throwbacks. I like the sort of duality between Anduin and Saurfang in the end here. They walk by Jaina and Bane. And here's Saurfang grabbing his axe and Anduin grabbing his sword from Valera. And there's just, off to the right, there's the VIP himself, Matthias Shaw. Can you even see him on? There he is. Look at him. Just so majestic. And then we have, I found it interesting that we have Thrall, who was once the prime central character of the Horde. I don't want to say sitting amongst the peasants, because none of these characters are peasants, but like, you've got Thrall should have been the one inside the tower at one point. At a different point in time, that was Jaina. In the last cinematic, that was Jaina and Thrall. At one point, it would be Thrall and Vol'jin, or Thrall and Varian. But now you've got Thrall here, and it's refreshing to see Thrall not in a position of leadership here. It's refreshing to see Thrall kind of answering the call to Saurfang. Saurfang says, get up, you maggots, and everyone jumps up. And you just got the full cast here. You've got Wolfman, Batman on the right here, Rexar. You've got Thrall there. You've got Thalyssra. You've got lor'themar with his beautiful new model. everyone's here. The whole gang's here. You even got Rokon in the background. If you look really carefully, right next to Ishura there, you can kind of see Rokon in the background. Like Blizzard didn't forget him. Poor Rokon. And Mela's in the background.
Lord Saurfang?
I think we talked about Ishura when we were making the notes for this. How young Zakan looks, and how that childlike mentality is, that confusion, that hesitation is really coming out in both this cinematic and the next cinematic.
Lord
He's a sweet baby. I feel for him. More in the next cinematic than this one, but that sweet innocent face it gets me, okay?
Immediately. Lord Saurfang?
Just
I can't say much about that, but
the little head tilt is just like Lord Saurfang, and it's I don't know, it's this father son relationship between Saurfang and Zakan. I'm really happy to see Zakan, by the way, again in a in-game cinematic. Now that he's got a proper model to give him some justice, it was great to see this line about where the Horde belongs, and it's not Orgrimmar.
Where is our home?
but Azeroth.
Not
I think the expansion name Battle for Azeroth has never been truer than in this cinematic, and maybe it's because it's so on the nose, but it's in this moment when they're all like, we're not fighting for our factions or for like the people in our race. We're fighting for this whole dang planet, for the sleeping Titan. And I think this is when the meaning of the battle for Azeroth really comes out.
I love in that moment, in that victory speech that they're talking about. There's a nice camera pan over the entire cast. As you said, it's no longer about factions, and it crosses over Jaina and Anduin, and then Valera and Shaw and his glorious mustache, and then there's even Mela High Mountains in the background. Like everyone here, it's a full gathering. I mean, not everyone, but most of the people are there, right? You got Eitrig lookalike in the background. No one knows who that guy is. And you've got Rexxar. Rexxar made it into a cinematic next to Jaina Proudmoore of all people. Man, how far have we come to see Rexxar next to Jaina Proudmoore? Man, look at that look. Look at that face just says regret right there. I'm sorry I killed your dad. But seriously, it's like the whole meaning of this expansion, the battle for Azeroth. I mean, a lot of people predicted it. A lot of people said, is this expansion really about the factions or really about the Titan itself and the planet itself? And it's in this cinematic that it's definitely made most known. Everything just comes so well together in this very inspiring sort of intro cinematic before the big one.
So Zakan asks, so what are we doing? Sweet baby innocent child.
What are we doing?
And Saurfang basically says, we are breaking the cycle. Now, I didn't realize this, but the very first thing Sylvanas says in the Battle for Azeroth cinematic is, ours is a cycle of hatred. And you may ask, what is the cycle? Well, I think specifically, the cycle is the fact that the Alliance and the Horde keep getting together and making, for lack of a better phrase, an alliance. And then something happens and that alliance shatters. And this keeps happening over and over and over. And some people complain, oh, this is just a rehash of former storylines, but that's kind of the point. Like, it's a cycle.
Literally called a cycle. God, the circle just keeps going around in circles. That's the point. It's a circle, right? It's the whole point to this. I completely agree. Actually, it was Ladis and Chandran who called out that the mention of cycle of hatred is also mentioned in game many years ago between, I believe it was lor'themar and Jaina on the island of Thunder, when Taranzu just yells at them to stop being monkeys and work together for once. And then that really comes up with, again, with Sylvanas, and ours is the cycle of hatred and all that stuff, and the book, The Cycle of Hatred. Like, it's a very Horde Alliance mantra right there, like that particular phrase. And you know, with the book being the story of Theramore and Durotar. By the way, it happens. It's like a vanilla story. Either way, it's a really nice call to, you know, a lot of people don't want to see the factions break, but like going full Game of Thrones here, like you got to break the wheel. The wheel needs to be broken, and Dragon Queen Saurfang here is gonna be the one to do that. I'm just imagining Saurfang with a really beautiful white mane, and I mean he already has a really beautiful white mane, but like an even better beautiful white mane and a dragon. That'd be cool. And that's it. That leads us. It ends on a really like badass note here. Saurfang looking all scary and intimidating, and that leads us into the next cinematic, which my hands are just shaking. There's so much to talk about, but we'll talk about that in the next video, so that this video isn't, you know, an hour and a half long. So, Ishura, any closing comments about the 8.2.5 War Campaign finale intro?
No.
Nope, none from me either. That's all we got. I'm actually, I guess my closing thoughts would be on it. I'm really glad to have seen a full cast of characters here. Blizzard, this entire expansion has done, specifically the in-game cinematics team, has done a really good job of having background characters in all of the cinematics. Not necessarily doing anything of importance, but like, again, Battle for Dazara lore, there's Shaw in the background, and you've got Shaw in the background again with, I mean, Shaw's been in the background every cinematic. Shaw's just the MVP. But here you've got the Lysra, you've got Rexar, you've got Mela, you've got all these background characters who just coming together. It wasn't just one or two characters. Everyone is here for the big event. So I thought that was a really, I really enjoyed seeing that. Just, and even though it was a casual camera pan over, I thought that was really cool. So those are my closing thoughts. Well done to the in-game cinematics team. Of course, the music cues, the Arthas Anduin throwbacks, so many good things. And we will talk about more in the next video. Just go watch it right away. It'll be like one long video with a little pause, a little ad between it. Just go click it right now. All right, see ya.